everybody. Welcome back to episode 14 of PK's Place. I hope everyone's having a great week so far. Hope you had a good weekend. If you're watching on YouTube, please, please don't mind what's on my TV. I was just jamming out to some music, especially Khalid. Probably many of you have heard that song, Young, Dumb, and Broke. It's great. I love it. Um, just a few updates in my life. I had a few things happen in the last week. I went and saw the new Marvel movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you do. It was very entertaining. It was refreshing too because the fight style wasn't just it was hand to hand, but it wasn't just like punching and kicking. It was more of a martial arts style, and I really appreciated that. Also, the action, I mean, oh my goodness, it was actually really, really well shot. There were a few takes where there was like all this furious cutting back and forth, which can be rather annoying. So the fact that a lot of them were these drawn out takes, I'm like, I like this. This is good. This is good. Simu Liu is really good in the role of Shang-Chi. And overall, yeah, it's just a entertaining watch. So I recommend you go see that. And then this past Wednesday, which is also the day I recorded the interview with our guest today, I'll get to that in a little bit. I had the chance to go to see Machine Gun Kelly live in concert. And I'm not afraid to say this. I went by myself. I had no one really in mind to go with when I bought the ticket, but you know what? I think that's okay. I think we should normalize people going to things by themselves. Like if you want to go to a nice restaurant by yourself, do it. You want to go to the movies by yourself, do it. Concert by yourself, sporting event, do it. If you want to do it, you should. I think that there is a stigma around if you do something just by yourself that you're lonely. I don't necessarily think that's the case, to be honest. I had a really good time there. I thought it was awesome. Machine Gun Kelly's he's amazing. Not only when you listen to him on Apple Music, Spotify, any of those streaming services, but he was really cool in concert. It was a lot of fun, especially when he performed songs like Misery Business and Bloody Valentine to finish. Unbelievable. Really good. And with that being said, today's interview it was a fun one. It was fun chatting with this person again. It is trainer Ryan Lauderdale, who is more commonly known as Rypen Fitness. Awesome interview. We chatted for well over an hour. Rypen's an awesome guy. A lot of good insight into training and what goes into it. So I think everyone's going to enjoy it. And let's actually send it over to Ryan Lauderdale. Okay, so our next guest is a strength coach, and he is a Nike master trainer. Those that know him as Rypen Fitness. It is Ryan Lauderdale. What's going on, Rypen?
What up? Doing pretty good.
Not much, just doing my thing. So the first question I had for you was, so it's no secret you've known our boy Brendan Brisson for a number of years now, and you've become close with him. I'm curious to know, how did that relationship start, and how have you seen him grow over the years?
Well, it started through his dad, Pat. I knew Pat before knowing B. Pat saw a skill that I had, wanted to train with me early on. And I mean, B and I have been just cultivating our trainer, athlete, now is more than that, friendship since he was about 14. And it's been great to see his development as an athlete, more so as a young man, and now getting into very soon the professional ranks. Being that he was drafted with now, it was like 2 draft classes ago now. It's flying by with COVID and everything. But it's great to be a part of the process and see the development, of not just a person, and like I just talked about, but also like those other things, when people see, when I hear, straight from, the scouts or, other people that are close to B as far as things that we need to work on. And then we work on those things and other people are like, wow, we can see that change in the development in him. Those things that we thought might have been missing with him, but we see that it's there and he has that within his game now. It's a special thing for me to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that does not know, So the draft in 2020 when Brendan got drafted was virtual due to the pandemic, and so you had all these players that were drafted. They were at their home, and there would be a camera that would take them into that view. And Rypen was lucky enough to actually fly out from LA and go to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where Brendan plays at Michigan, and actually be there. How was it? What did it mean to you to actually get to be there in that key moment for Brendan?
Man, it was a special thing. I think it was a special thing for anyone that follows professional athletics. And, draft day, everyone knows how big that is and how big of a special moment that is. And, we were all a little bit, I think the world was bummed, you know what I mean, and kind of let down because of COVID, but understanding because of what COVID has done to the world and its impact on the world. We couldn't be there live and in person. And then also I had to take a step back and look at it and say, like, wow, had it not been for COVID, there would have only been a very short amount of tickets available for, immediate family to be there in attendance had it been on the big stage where you're so used to seeing with the NHL draft. And I wouldn't have been able to be there. And so for me, because of everything that had transpired, I was able to be there for B, for the fam, to support and to be there and, and experience that with them. So it was an extremely special thing to be a part of.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, if you see the video, Rypen goes after Jordy, who you also trained Jordy. Tell everyone at home, what's it like having both of them in the gym? Because I talked about this, I think last episode with Quinn, was that sometimes when both of them are in the gym at the same time, it can kind of be chaos.
Well, that's what just about any brother dynamic. It can be like that. But the thing is, they're both highly competitive. They both are very, very, A-type, very like driven competitors, and they feed off each other as well. So like that's one thing that if anybody's like in the gym around them at the same time, that's what they're seeing. They're seeing them both feed off each other, and really right now it's just Jordy feeding off it way more than B. And I'm saying that B doesn't feed off of like Jordy doing well and putting the numbers in the gym and having success. But Jordy, he wants to go and improve himself and to show that, hey, he's not the little brother. Know me as, Jordy or Jordan Brisson and what I do on the ice. And that's what we talk about all the time as part of the Rypen way, is putting numbers on the board. And so, that's what it's about, showing why you belong and honestly putting the full piece together. We're in the gym training, we do stuff on the field, we go to the sand, we do all these things in order to improve performance. And so at the end of the day, we want to see that improve, and you got to show.
Yeah, I think that sibling rivalry is actually rather healthy, and I think it's good that they're pushing each other, because then other guys that are in the gym, it'll push them as well.
Yeah, I think everybody feeds off each other, as far as that competitive dynamic within the gym or on the ice, especially like summertime skates and everything that we do. And I as a former athlete, I've seen that is the best environment to want to be in. When I take from like the football world and I look at those teams that are the best, let's say in the collegiate ranks, those teams that are the best, they're the best because they get the best athletes, because they compete every day. If you listen to what Nick Saban talks about, what Nick Saban preaches, or even back in the day, in the glory days for USC when Coach Carroll was here, they talked about competing, and they want players and athletes that are there to compete. And so that's why I think that Alabama's been so successful, and they've had up to like 5 first round, running back draft picks in the same locker room, and it's just very rare to get that, to have a first or third rounders all on the same team, all fighting for the same spot, for the same playing time, but they're there because they want to be with the best and amongst the best. And so I think that's the special thing. And I've seen that within training environments and training gyms all around the facility, performance facilities all around the nation, where guys want to be where of the guys are going to be there, where they're going to push them. It doesn't have to be the same sport. It can be multi-sports. Football players don't mind training around with hockey guys or training with whomever. Especially if they know they're the best. They're like, all right, let's go. This person's going to push me to be my best today, which is going to help me to be the best when it matters.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And even going back to Alabama football, I think another thing that helps is obviously they're recruiting these great athletes. And since Saban's been there and has built up that program, it's made his job a lot easier, because part of the pitch is you want to come here, you're gonna win, or if you want to be here, you got to want to win at all costs. And I mean, we've seen how successful they've been, and even like you said, I think it was last year's draft. They had 6 total players drafted in the first round, and it was pure dominance, and that's why you saw them win the national championship, kind of running away with it against Ohio State as they did, because of guys like Mac Jones and Devontae Smith, who are just tremendous athletes.
I think if you talk to Coach Saban, he wouldn't say it's easy or easy.
No.
I think Coach Saban would say it makes it even harder because you got to show up every year. It's very hard to be at the top for that long. It's easier to take down the person on the top when the target's not on your back, right? Mm-hmm. If the target's on your back for a decade plus, like Alabama, like Saban, it's easy to get comfortable and fall off. And so Saban and staff, they have to do things every year to not just revamp, because they lose coaches, just like they did with Sark. He left and he's at Texas. They lost many great coaches throughout the year that are at other universities, such as Ole Miss and many other great schools around the nation. So they got to replace them.
Yep.
So it makes it. I think the Saban would say it makes it even harder for him each year. And then also trying to convince parents and athletes that that's the place where they need to be. They're going to get them ready for the league, and they're going to have that opportunity to show up and show why they should be that, first through third round draft pick, or just an NFL draft pick, period.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And I think this is another comparison that can be made. And I think it's pretty well known why I'm going to make the comparison, because these two know each other very well and coach very well. But Saban's run at Alabama is very Belichickian with the Patriots. And I know the Patriots they had a rebuilding year last year, and they're 0-1. We don't know how they're going to turn out this year, but it's very similar in the fact that they are both very smart coaches, and that they both have been able to get the most out of their players. And yeah, I think if there's any coach who's as good at their job of developing guys for the league, I would say Saban is. I would say he's number one on my list, if not top 5.
I would say that there's no coincidence with that.
No, absolutely not.
Saban and Belichick, it's well known now because they had I think an HBO special or Showtime.
They do, yep, HBO.
Where they talk every year, and they just talk football and they just talk shop. All right, so within that's no coincidence, because they've been doing that since they were on the same coaching staff with the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then them both going off and finding their own, cementing themselves within the legacy of football in both arenas, whether it be NCAA and the NFL. But I think there's a deeper connection for them, and I think it goes back to national pride, right? With them both being like Croatian descent, and so I think there's a lot of things there that has them tied to each other, that has created this bond, and football was helped to, solidify that bond, their love for it, their passion for it, and then their passion for winning, and then also player development. I think when you look at any professional sport, it's more about like player development, how you can get the most out of the player. And I think when you look at college athletes, especially college coaches, it's it's a mixture of personal development, right? How can I turn this like boy into a young man? And then also you have to develop them as an athlete on the field or on the ice or wherever they're at on the track, so that you're seeing them getting better year in and year out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing that's interesting, I don't know if you heard about this, but one of the Alabama quarterbacks, because of the new name, image, likeness rules, he's already made $1 million before he's even played a game with Alabama. So that's also another thing that's changing the game for the recruiting, that some schools are going to offer you more money with name, image, likeness. Other schools like Texas are taking a harder stance where they aren't necessarily allowing their players to get that money, because obviously it's no secret. Not every college athlete is going to go play pro sport. So if they can make as much money as they can while they're in college, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great thing. I'm a little bit more like, I guess, partial to that what you just said, because first of all, you talked about Bryce, and he's a California kid, and
Mhm.
so like any Cali kid, I want to see do great. It's not that I have
Yeah.
anything in other states, but anyone that's come from the West Coast, I want them to ball out. That's also my younger cousin's godbrother. She's out there right now at the University of Alabama, getting her master's, and so like I want him to do well. So it's like, all right, yeah, make your money, man. Do your thing. And I think that's one thing where a lot of people were, I think, fooling themselves when they said that, hey, collegiate athletes can make money. I think a lot of people were like, oh, we're all making money. No, you are not all making money like that. It was never meant to be a fair playing field. And I think maybe in the future, that might be one of those things that athletes start fighting for down the line. But right now, it's going to run its course. And by the way, you're going to see more and more athletes make a lot of money. And from, the large universities like Alabama, or even other maybe universities you might not know of at the HBCU level. I think was Master P's son, I think, signed a deal, was rivaling that of the one at Alabama. And I think it was maybe close to Mill or something like that. And so, you see a lot more, barstool athletes and everything
Yep.
else. And I think that a lot of people are still trying to figure out the lay of the land and what it means to be, let's say, a barstool athlete or sign with someone. I think at the end of the day, the way I see it is just more of athletes are being ushered into like the business world, the world of like social marketing and business as a whole. Like, the
Mm.
more they can do right now to understand their image and their likeness, and at the end of the day, how they're going to profit off of it is if they're winning. And that's the
Mm.
real world, and that's business. Like, all right, how do you get more playing time? All right, be the best.
Yeah.
Don't be available. You know what I mean? It's just like
Mm.
it's some basic things, but obviously it gets a little more advanced and complicated. But I think it's a great thing. It's something that guys have been fighting for a long time. Guys have been thinking about, but never thought was possible. When I say guys, I mean guys and girls, men and women, been fighting for, never thought it was possible. And so I think it's a great thing. I don't think people should complain about it. People should just get on the field, ball out, put up your numbers, put numbers on the board, and the money will be there.
Yeah, I think that's no, that's perfect. And I guess the follow up question, similar to that, in a local case, do you think Reggie Bush should be given his Heisman back?
Yeah, they should have never taken his Heisman. What? It was crazy. I think it's
Mm.
ridiculous. For anyone that was not around or not alive in that time, Reggie Bush, in my opinion, was the hands down the best college football player that year. He was that amazing. He was that electrifying. He did things that no one else was doing. He did things that people did not do before. And I also think that Reggie was just a little bit before his time when he came to the NFL. I think that Reggie's game translates into the way the game is played now, and that skill set that he had then could be way better utilized now in the game that we have today. Back then, they were just complaining that Reggie wasn't a three down back. He doesn't want to take the ball, in powers, and he just wants sweeps and catching the ball in the flat. And it's like, no, like that was part of his game. But I think also they just didn't know how to, at the time, best utilize his skill set and his game. But they should never touch his Heisman. I think he's getting it back, and so I'm glad he's getting it back. Nice guy, one of the best like college football athletes of all time. And yeah, you got any more questions on Reggie Bush? I just think he's one of the best college athletes of all time, and I'm still kind of salty that Vince Young beat USC in that was that national championship. And I think anybody's a SoCal football fan, especially if you're a SC football fan or a follower, I think you're still salty at that.
Yeah, and the thing also with Reggie Bush, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was he got what was it, 300,000 under the table around his time of playing, and especially with how the rules are now, I don't see why they can't just give it back to him. I mean, what is it? What does it matter? It's not to get. This is a greater issue we're not going to dive into, but it's similar with all the people that are still in jail for marijuana related crimes. When in a lot of states, especially California, marijuana is legal. It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I think Reggie should have his Heisman back.
Yeah, no, there are some similarities. The difference is obviously we're talking about like football and the other stuff. We're talking about like lower level crimes and or how the government classifies that. But there's still similarities. I think in the classification for the stuff we're talking about like marijuana possession, especially small marijuana possession, that there's just a longer process in order to go through it and retroactively correct past wrongs. I with the Bush situation, it's more about an admission of fault and guilt. And like, all right, this happened. Things have changed. We should have never taken your Heisman in the first place because you won that outright. And it really had no reflection on what you did for college football at the time. We've already penalized the university. We penalized you. Give him, give him the trophy back. Like that's it and that's all. Like, all right, let's move forward. Let's have a party and a celebration for it, and let's move forward because that's no longer a place in which we operate anymore. Because we see things differently now.
Yeah, absolutely. The world is constantly changing, and I do agree with what you said. And even transitioning still with football, you're a former football player yourself. I'm curious, who would you say your player comparison was when you played?
Well, I'll tell you who I wanted to be like back in the day.
Let's
Was
hear it.
Peter Ward.
Okay,
Peter Ward.
Peter
PW,
Ward.
man. I wore number 9. He wore number 9. He wasn't like the tallest wide out. We were about the same height, but he was just like so explosive and the way he ran his routes. He just attacked everything, and he would just win the day. He would just win that battle and go out to battle every time. There were other like SoCal wideouts that I took a lot from. TJ Houshmandzadeh, Steve Smith, Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco.
Ochocinco, yep.
So he's a Florida boy. But I just love the way he like played the game. He played the game with so much passion. And then my all time favorite is Jerry Rice, and just the way that Jerry Rice approached the game and how he approached training for it and his commitment to his craft. I think for me was like one of those things that I noticed like early on, and it really inspired me to want to be a wideout and then to push the envelope and to do more.
Yeah, those are all really good players. I mean, like when you talk about best wide receivers of all time, Jerry Rice is on that list. And Ocho Cinco, I wanted to say the thing for me about him that's funny is not only I love his personality first, but second, I think he still could have been playing in the league. I think if he took care of his habits a little bit, like obviously you hear the stories how he'd be like, oh, I ate like 3 Big Macs, or he didn't really eat the best food, but he was incredible. And what was surprising to me was he actually played. I think it was in one of the Super Bowls against the Giants with New England, and I saw that come up somewhere, and I was like, he played for the Patriots. I had no idea.
I think, well, speaking on Chad's like eating habits, I think he was just such a genetic freak that whereas it would have affected most of us, would have slowed most of us down with his proclaimed eating habits of going to fast food chains and grubbing out. I don't know how often he was doing that, if he was doing it every day, but I think it would affect the majority of us. And I couldn't exactly what, but there are just some genetic freaks to where it affects them a little bit less than the rest of the population. I also think that, yeah, for sure he could have kept playing. I think that he still had it, but the league, you're talking about any league, things just changed. Things change. The league moves forward. Organizations change. Coaches and what they're looking for is for what they're identifying positionally, what they think the organization needs at that time to move forward, to be competitive, to win a Super Bowl, to win a cup. or to win, you know, an NBA title, like everything changes. So it's not just clear cut, like, oh, this guy's been the guy for 10 years, and so he should just get a job. I'm like, yeah, but no. You know, there's a lot that goes on. And then like interpersonally, you know what I mean? Like how will you get along with, you know, staff, organization, are you a locker room guy? Like there's all these things that play into it. There's a lot of guys at home right now wishing they were going into camp, you know, for the NHL, or guys right now sitting at home wishing that they were going to get a call for the NFL, or, you know, get a call to go into even the D League for the NBA, but they're not. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. I'm not saying that it's like their fault or, you know, just someone else's fault. There's a lot of different reasons, but just going back to Ocho Cinco, I still think he had a couple more years left, but you know, there's a lot to it. It's more than just black and white on why somebody's not playing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of factors that for sure go into it, and yeah, I think he also was big, especially with his personality. Like even on Hard Knocks, he was on Hard Knocks, and he was obviously a fan favorite there for whenever he was mic'd up, and just like even if you can, everyone should look this up. Like Ocho Cinco mic'd up, he's got some of the funniest sound bites. Like there was one game he was like, I think he was like, if this guy denies me the ball any time in the game, whether it's like two-man coverage, like whatever it is, he's like, I'll give you my game check to the coach. Like, just, I don't know, not many people would say that, but it's just how Ocho Cinco was. This is personality.
Able to back it up.
No. No. And he's not a wide receiver, but it reminds me of a quote from Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, where he goes, you know, he basically said, if you're playing against, if you're in Florida State, and you're playing on my side, well, you're going to be hearing the band playing because I'm going the other way with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
He was one of those guys that he backed it up every time. So that's part of his prime. Like, you know, he got that nickname because he was, and honestly still is, Prime. Coach Prime is prime time. He's doing a great job down at Jackson State. And, you know, it's like one of those things that, you know, you can still look to Coach Prime and find so much inspiration and you know, admiration for what he's done and what he's still doing. It's hard to be relevant that long. It's hard to be on top for that long, and to be the best for that long. Because when you got the target on your back, people are coming for you.
Yeah, you have to truly be ready to go day in and day out. And I'm rooting for. I'm hoping Jackson State does well. I hope he does really well. And I know there's a documentary that they made with Barstool about him at Jackson State. So I look forward to watching that. So is there anyone current day in the NFL? Because I know it's we're going into week 2. Week 1 just happened. Who do you like watching, like player-wise, in the NFL today?
Oh my gosh, like there's so many people. Like, where do I start?
Let's go wide receivers. Let's go because your position, you're a wide receiver.
No, I'm gonna start with quarterbacks.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Kyler Murray. I mean, obviously, you got the man himself in Kansas City. Like, how can you not?
Mm-hmm.
You got the former MVP in Green Bay. How can you not? I mean,
the bad man.
Russell. Yeah, I mean, bad man. You got Russell. Like there's so many really good quarterbacks. I'm really interested in seeing how the season goes for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm really interested in seeing who actually picks up Cam Newton. I said it before week 1, especially when the Patriots let go of Cam. I was like, well, I think the most likely team to consider him is Washington, because Riverboat was a former coach. And then obviously what happened after week 1
with Fitz getting hurt,
yeah, that was sad to see. But you know, it's a next man up kind of league, and so there's that. New England and seeing that situation, I think that they got their guy. I think they knew when they drafted him, he was their prototype of a guy. And there's nothing that, you know, not taking away from Cam at all. I still think that Cam can be a true number 1 in the NFL of leading the team into the playoffs and and getting back to deep in the playoffs. I think he has it. I think that just that offense and the way it was set up and the way that they're used to operating with their systems, I don't know if that was the best fit for him. But I think that Washington, with the good amount of defensive players they have over there and what they've been building over.
Okay, PK here. So this hasn't happened before where I've actually had to jump in mid interview like this, but I just wanted to let everyone know that while I was recording this interview with Rypen, I was having some Wi-Fi troubles. It kicked us off a few times of the call. So if there's points where the conversation starts at one point, but then it'll cut to something different, just bear with me that it was technical difficulties. Now let's get back to Ryan Lauderdale. Yeah, so we were talking about quarterbacks, and Kyler Murray is interesting to me because I think he does a lot of things well. Obviously, he's very mobile. And honestly, if I were to take, if you said who would you rather have, Kyler or Lamar, I think I might take Kyler just because I think he can throw the ball a little better than Lamar. But a lot of people I know would disagree with me on that.
Yeah, I would disagree with you on that one. I think that I think Lamar has a cannon. I think he can be really accurate. He's shown that he can be accurate at the highest level in the NFL. You don't become an MVP just because you can run and just throw the long ball. I think that maybe Lamar might be putting a lot of pressure on himself because he's a winner. He's always been a winner, and people are expecting them to basically get over the hump. And as far as getting into the Super Bowl and then winning the Super Bowl. And so I think he just might be feeling that pressure. And sometimes when you feel the pressure, you do a little bit, maybe too much. Some might describe it as. And so I still have a lot of confidence in Lamar Jackson. And you can see that in the way he moves and the way he prepares for every Sunday or Monday or whatever game they're going to play during the week. And I have a lot of confidence in him.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that's unfortunate also is that I feel like Lamar is compared a lot with Patrick Mahomes, or at least it's always Lamar versus Mahomes. And I know people hold it against him that he hasn't beaten them yet. And we'll obviously see this Sunday because Sunday Night Football is Chiefs at Ravens. So that'll be another test. But yeah, I feel like those two are always kind of inextricably linked together.
I think they're linked together because they're both winners and they've been winning at a high clip in the NFL. But their game is just totally different. Their style of play is totally different. I mean, I don't think anybody can compare to Patrick Mahomes' throwing angle. Like, it's just like unseen. It's I would say it's one of those things that you can't really train for. But if you look at what he and Bob Stroop do, they're preparing for everything down there at APEC or wherever. I think Bob Stroop just moved to Kansas City to be there closer to Patrick and the team. And so I think it's kind of like one of those things that when I was younger, at least, remember coaches there, when you would shoot the craziest shots, you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're never going to shoot that in the game. And it's like now you watch Steph Curry, you watch all these other guys, and I mean, they're throwing up the most ridiculous shots you ever seen. They're all going in. But a lot of it is because they prepare for it, because they have the strength, because they have the range, because there's such a threat on wherever they're at. The defender has to respect everything they do, which delays the defender in their attack and their defense. And so, yeah, he's a very, very special person to watch.
He really is. And I think what's interesting too is I know there's a lot of pressure on obviously young players in the league now to basically come out of their draft and to be successful. But what people I feel like are forgetting is Mahomes sat a year behind Alex Smith, and he learned a lot obviously in that year sitting behind him. And so that's when he then took over, is when then you saw like, oh shit, this guy can actually ball. So I think that's lost on a lot of young guys today in the league, that it's like you have to produce right then, right now.
Mahomes sat, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. Tom Brady sat, I think, behind Bledsoe.
Yep.
And like the list goes on and on as far as the greats that are currently in the NFL. Remember, like, Drew Brees didn't he got shipped out of San Diego, and people thought his career was done. And so, like, sitting or or playing from behind, kind of like being the underdog and getting a second chance. I think it's more of the mindset, and I think that's the biggest difference between what you got, what we see from the guys at the very top, is the mindset of kind of like how they handle adversity, and because everyone handles it differently, I'm not going to say one way is necessarily better than the others. I'm just going to say, well, I might look more to the people that are doing it at a high clip, winning at a high clip, and seeing how they're handling the adversity and what type of adversity they're handling. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for you as someone who works with a lot of younger players and even obviously athletes, I guess even of all ages, for anyone at home, what is some advice that you have to obviously help them out, to become more of a functional athlete, or even just obviously just become better, kind of with habits day in and day out?
Yeah, I think there's a hot topic that's going around in the sports world and just kind of like pop culture. It is, mental health. And so, whereas I'm not going to go down the pathway of telling everyone this, that, and the other about mental health, because I am not a mental health specialist. I will tell you, though, that what's being said now isn't anything new in the way that I see it, right? When I was younger, I used to hear a lot, oh, sports is 90% mental or 80% mental, and then that other 10 or 20% is the physical, right? When I was younger, I was like, what? Like, how? Like, you see the guys in the NFL? Like, these guys are massive. Like, no, that's physical right there. And whereas, like, that is physical. But the thing is, when you make it to the highest level, everyone's strong, everyone's fast, everyone's smart, right? There still might be some people a little bit faster. There still might be some people a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger. But it's all the other stuff that happens when you're a professional athlete, right? Like what's happening at home with your family, contracts, relationships with your agents, all the other stuff right now, like trolls on social media and everything else. All these things can affect you, can affect your perception of yourself, your perception of your gameplay, or honestly, even like it can affect your nervous system, right? Because if I'm so far in my head and I'm so ramped up and my adrenaline is going because I keep thinking about this one person that's making me mad and I don't even know this person because there's a troll on the internet and I'm pissed off all the time. That can affect the way I sleep, can affect my recovery, which affects my gameplay. And if it affects my gameplay, then it affects my paycheck. I might not be getting bonuses. I might not make certain plays. And then now I'm in a hole. And then now I'm such a head case where you might be unconsolable. You might be, hard to coach. You might be, off in a meeting. You might be, like disengaged, and all those things it's just a snowball effect. And so, yes, mental, but it's just more of like going further into what that actually means, because there's a lot of things that can affect, one's mental state. But in talking about like young athletes and developing young athletes, I would say give me some time, man. A lot of people want it now. I understand, in the social media world we live in now, a lot of people get what they want now as far as like followers or fame or money and, other possessions and other things and experiences. I would say giving yourself time will be one of the best things I learned, because just think about America and where we're at now, and the reason why we love to be American and be in America is because of all that we have access to. America's the land of the free and the home of the brave, and there's just things that we don't have to worry about the same way that they do in other countries and other places in the world. And that took time to get there, and I won't go into the whole process of how we got there, because that's a whole separate conversation.
It is, yeah.
But I will say, just giving yourself time is one of the things that you can do. So just being a little bit gracious to yourself and to others, is one of those things that you can do, and showing up and being, being like Brady, to be honest with you. Be like Brady, so be the pro, do the thing day in, day out, fully commit yourself to it. Don't be halfway in, be all the way in, and don't, we know what the outcome you want to get. And if your efforts, if your words, your daily actions don't align with it, you make those adjustments so you get back on course.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. And what you just said reminded me of something Igor's sister, who I had on one of my first few episodes of the podcast, said was everyone, like, it seems like society today is very based on instant gratification. And so basically when we were talking about that it seems like everyone wants things now, when, like you said, you need to just take your time. And even a phrase I think you're very familiar with is trust the process. Trust the work you're putting in, trust what you're doing, and more often than not, you're going to have a good outcome, especially if you're putting in that work.
Yeah, I was looking at something, I don't know if it was like a human podcast or something like that. And basically, I think they were talking about in this world, the world that we live in now, there are like a multitude of things, right? You can research anything to prove your point, right? Anything, right? There's tons of research that's done, and so it's like whatever perspective you have. So some of it is like, yes, trusting the process, but then there's some of it is like kind of like blocking things out as well, right? You gotta know like kind of like where you want to be. I think that's why it's always important to have like a good team, and so you don't let certain things get close to you and affect your mental state and affect your perception of things. And then so you can have a little bit clearer focus, because you don't think about the 5 trillion gazillion things that are happening all at the same time. You get to put all your effort in, to those few things, and then you can be great at those few things of what's going to help you get to your end goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing, at least, that was taught to me, at least from my father, was, and this is what I'm going to say to everyone at home, is worry about the things you directly control. So like what you were saying was all these outside noises, like these people chirping on social media, all these things that you can't control, like, what your teammates think about you, what your coach thinks about you, any of these things, you shouldn't worry about that. You should worry about what you put in your body, how much you sleep, what your attitude is, and especially what your work ethic is, because you'll know it doesn't matter if someone is, they're a first line player or they're a fourth line player. They have it in themselves to have a strong work ethic. You don't need any skill to have a strong work ethic.
Correct. And I say the same thing, but I say it in my own words, which is control the controllables. But it's the same sentiment of, not necessarily worrying about, everything else is happening outside of you. And that goes with, I think, partly like knowing who you are and knowing what you want. I think there's certain things that help with that, right? Having, like I said, a good team, meaning like a good family base, a good coaches that are able to impart, wisdom through training or through like other consulting, and all those things help with like exactly what you said, controlling the controllables.
Absolutely. So another question I had for you was, when did you make the transition to be a trainer, and how did you obviously get involved with training hockey players, even though you came from a football background?
Yeah, sure. So I after like my football career, when I knew it was over, I knew that I was going to continue to be in the sports world. And so after college, I started working at a sports performance facility here in the LA area. We worked with a lot of NFL combine players at the time, was prepping guys for the combine and getting ready for the league. After doing that for a number of years, I worked also at a couple other large fitness chains. Kind of was always involved in both, like the sports side and the fitness side. At a certain point, I got involved with the large company. You might have heard when you talked about them earlier, Nike, and I was doing work with them all over the nation, and even went overseas for them for projects. And so at a certain point, when I was doing a little bit less like hands-on sports specific work, I knew I wanted to get back into it. and just a opportunity provided itself with hockey by way of the LA Junior Kings. And so made a plan. It was like a 3 to 5 year plan to basically, work with some younger guys, develop them, and then some pros and some kind of older guys would come, and that's exactly what happened. And throughout those years, it's been really fun time in the hockey world. It comes with its challenges. A lot of the challenges are communication because, I know football. We can talk football all day, but with hockey, it took me a while to I'll be real with you, as a person that grew up in the Wayne Gretzky era, but still never was a hockey guy like that. It was hard for me to watch hockey on TV. It wasn't until I went to a certain number of games at Staples and saw the Kings play that I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It was kind of like Will Ferrell from movies for me. It was like, I watched it the first time, I'm like, but once I was in it. Once I got it, I really started to get it. And so I just know, as far as my role and my, to get to the guys that I work with or to the sport. And I stay within my lane, and then honestly just expand even more. I think that I started to realize as a coach, as a person, just, trust the process, but also being in love with the process, and love again, and love with having new I definitely feel very grateful to be in this hockey world, to be accepted by those that accept me, giving opportunities and showing my work, and having my guys do great things, getting drafted, and guys in the league doing well and showing out, and that's it's a special thing to be an outside, to be accepted into a different world, and people appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a pretty cool story to obviously transition from one sport to another. And I do understand what you're talking about with, obviously you said you watched it on TV at first and you're like, I don't know. That's a lot of things that people who aren't really in that hockey world originally say, is that they don't really like watching it on TV. But what I will say is, you experienced, when you will watch a game in person, it's totally different. It's fast. The big thing too is you see how large some of these guys are. You're like, wow, these guys are massive, and the pace of play is really good. And yeah, I just think it's really good that people can go out and experience it, and especially I think hopefully this coming year that people can go to the Staples Center or whatever NHL arenas are nearby you and go watch a game, because I think you should, because the product on the ice is very good.
Yeah, I think for anybody watching this, I would put playoff hockey up against any other major sport, and I would say that it might be top 3. I'll put it in top three. I love the Super Bowl. I love NFL,
it's awesome.
The NFL postseason. I love it. But for me, even though I grew up playing baseball, I'm putting hockey over October. I'm putting it above the race for the pennant, and I'm doing that because I just think it's so exciting. I think we saw that, especially in the past couple of years, man. This gameplay and the speed on the ice has been so fast. And the guys have been so smart and so intelligent. So it's, for me, I just love to see good play for any sport, and so it just makes you really appreciate it when it's played at such a high level.
For sure. And speaking of NHL guys, you've actually had the chance to train. I know, I don't know about this summer, but last summer you trained Tyler Toffoli, who plays for Montreal. How did that opportunity come about, and what was it like training a guy like Toff?
Yeah, so the opportunity came about. Honestly, I think that COVID helped with it, and because guys still needed to train. It's one of those things that we all stayed as safe as possible, and I'm thankful that no one was sick, and that that all of our energy was really put into focusing on the performance aspect. And but I think it was, well, you know, it's kind of, you do good work and people hear through the grapevine about, you know, what you're doing, and, you know, talk to you. And so me, talk when I sat down, and, you know, talked about creating a plan for him, and talked about, you know, what training the Rypen way is, and how I could help him get to that. I think that, you know, it was a couple of things of him needing to, you know, find a coach, yeah, spot, who was ready to go. And then also I think he just liked what he heard, and, you know, and what he heard about me, and maybe meeting me. And then so we got into it, and we started training, and you know, by the end of that time period, when before we was going into the playoffs, man, he was ready to go, showed up all the way ready. I think everybody was very impressed on his ready state, and I think that just speaks to Toph, and just he's just such a pro. He's just really pro, and just knows kind of really the game very well. It's such a high IQ on the ice, and we can see that in his gameplay, and how he showed up, especially this last year. Sheesh. I mean,
Mhm.
man, boy was doing something special. And so, man, it was really a pleasure working with Toph, and you know, being a part of his his training journey, his journey in ice.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Rypen, you actually got to go see Toph play live in Vegas. How did that, which game was that, and how do you think you did out there? Because I know you also went with Brendan and Pat, and I think maybe Finker too.
Man, I'm gonna correct you, because I wanted to go, but circumstances didn't make it, so I was able to go. But I did get to see it on TV, and it was still a special thing watching our guy Toph show up, and do his thing. Yeah, man, I wanted to go. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah. Hey, you'll get to go next time. And I guess even funnier with speaking of Vegas with Brendan was, so I had Jack Blake on 2 episodes ago, and he was talking about how I think Brendan was like, "Oh yeah, I'll fly you guys out for the draft party because it was going to be in Montreal."
Yeah.
And I was telling Jack, I'm like, "Wow," I'm like, "What a city to have the draft in, Montreal." I feel like I think if anyone was also going to go to the draft party, I mean, you would have definitely had to been there. I mean, it would have you would definitely add to the fun. That, I mean, definitely would have been a good time.
Yeah, once again, I was very salty because
Yeah.
it couldn't happen. No, obviously because of COVID. But man, when I tell you, it was a year and a half. I was looking forward to going out there for this draft party. I mean, I was about to get tailored suits made. That was the whole thing, you know, it was the whole thing. And unfortunately, COVID happened, and it changed the course of that. And so, but still, like I said earlier, had that not happened, I wouldn't have been able to have the same experience that we had in Michigan at the big house, celebrating B on being drafted 29th overall.
Absolutely. And so there's one thing that I think I'm at least really dying to know, and hopefully everyone else. So a big thing when you come into the, as it's called, the lab,
Yeah.
Rypen Fitness, basically whenever the phrase about when you're putting in work and you're just grinding is lab talk. And it's a big thing that anyone who's familiar with Rypen knows about lab talk. How did that originate? And were you surprised that it's kind of taken on the life of its own? Because it's big time, let's be real.
But yeah, man, lab talk just kind of took on a life of its own. I think when I first got my facility and I thought about what I wanted to name it, it just kind of came to me as far as like, you put out there what you want, and I knew that I wanted this to be a place to where we're able to serve, all the people that I've been serving throughout the years, as far as the main two categories and how I break it down now. So the everyday athletes and the professional athletes, right? And so with that, I think you need to, at least the way I saw it, you need to have the environment and the equipment to be able to serve them best. And so here I'm able to have a lot of things that you might find in like a traditional lab, even though this isn't a traditional lab that you might find at a facility, whether it be a university or a separate lab attached to a large brand out there that has been doing a lot of research and that we all use as far as like training and training parameters, et cetera, but enough of scientific talk. That wasn't so scientific, but enough of that talk. So you wanna understand where lab talk came about.
Yeah, where did it come from? Yeah.
So lab talk is just kind of like, it's always something we've done. It's always something we've done as far as just talking about everything, talking about this and that, or just putting up numbers, just certain things that I say, certain isms. And it was the man himself, Brendan Brisson, one day that came up with the term lab talk, because this is called the Rypen Performance Lab.
Yep.
And we were actually in here doing our thing. And I think one day he was like, that's lab talk. And then the lab talk just kind of, actually, I don't even think he was in here yet. I think he was still in Michigan. And one day he was like, yeah, that's lab talk. And then it just took on a life of its own. And, there's different ways that we talk about it now. It's like, oh, good lab talking with you, And just, or you do something or something's said or numbers are put up and it's boom, it's lab talk,
Yeah, I think honestly, like the life that it's taken on its own is fantastic. I mean, it's so universal, and I think whenever anyone hears about your lab and anyone who trains at Rypen Fitness, everyone knows everyone's lab talk, and everyone knows lab talk. It's almost like an inside joke at that point, which I think that's some of the best inside jokes when it's just created organically, like Brendan did, and yeah, it's funny. Like I'll even admit it, like I met Brendan a while ago. Like I think I was like 11 or so, but I didn't see him again until I was out there this summer. And like following him on Instagram, I would see him training with you, and I would see lab talk. So I was like, I'm like, I wonder what that means. But no, I think I'm happy to share it with the listeners and share and actually get to experience it. And how'd you also get to end up getting your facility that you call home, which is now obviously the Rypen Performance Lab?
Yeah, so it was a long journey, it's a long process throughout I've actually been looking for about 6.5 years. I think on that journey, it's taken many different twists and turns and many different iterations where I thought I was going to bring a couple of partners into it. I thought I was going to partner with a couple of large brands, so many twists and turns. And then, COVID hit. And then I was faced with the dilemma of, where I just needed a place of my own at the time. I think because I've been in so many different like worlds within training, sports performance, et cetera, I utilize a lot of different tools in order to train. But a lot of people who aren't used to certain things, such as Olympic lifting and weights banging, or a lot of testosterone in the gym, lab talking, they're not used to it. And so just one of those things that, I was like, well, I need to really put the gas, pedal to the metal and really apply the pressure to find the facility. And so during COVID, I was like, you know what? I know something's going to become available. So I reached out to my broker. I was like, hey, we got to make that move right now. Let's make it happen. And when I reached out to him and kind of put that, like I said, applied the pressure, we found something. It was like maybe a couple weeks after that. Came in, saw the spot, boom, done. Sign a dotted line next week. And it was 1 year anniversary.
There you go.
September. Yeah. So, yeah, we've been getting after it and making things happen and doing a lot of lab talking. And a lot more to come.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think if there was any time, honestly, to get your own space and get involved in that, I would say 2020 was the time, especially as you know, the land and the property, like the payments, it was a lot less. The value went down a little bit because not everyone was obviously buying, not everyone was as invested in the market. So I think for you, you struck when the iron was hot, and I would say it's paid dividends.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it definitely paid dividends in a lot of ways as far as like being ahead of a curve and honestly creating your own, which I think a lot of people did during 2020. Is they doubled down on themselves. I will say though that I just happen to be in one of those cities in the nation in El Segundo where I don't think property values went down. I don't think commercial real estate went down. I think it held steady, or it might have slightly have gone up on the commercial side. Because I know how much the landlord was charging before I came in here, and he's charging me more. So I don't know what I'm paying for my lease. I know what the lease was before, so I was very fortunate. It was just more about availability, because there was more businesses that were available because people had, vacated and whatnot. And so I think that was the one thing for me that it was like timing, striking while it was hot kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. And then pivoting gears real quick. So for everyone at home, so when I was obviously visiting in LA this summer, I gave my boy Igor, I gave him a ride to Rypen, and so I come in the gym, Igor's lab talking, I think Brendan was lab talking. I see Rypen wearing a Clippers hat, and I'm like, what is he wearing? So we start talking about it. So Rypen, I gotta let the people know, how'd you become a Clippers fan, especially being an LA guy?
It's a long story. I'm gonna try to shorten it up. So I'm an LA guy through and through. So I support just about all LA teams. But when I was younger, the biggest name in the world, not even just in sports, one of the biggest names in the world was Michael Jordan. And I was a big Michael Jordan fan. So much so that I had Chicago Bulls trash cans and bed sheets and all that kind of stuff in my room growing up. So when I was younger, I wasn't even a Lakers fan because I was a Jordan fan. And then when I started to get, older, when Jordan wasn't playing anymore, he went to the Wizards and all that thing. And I still never became a Lakers fan because by that time, like Magic had already gone on and he wasn't in the NBA anymore. And so I was just without a team for a long time. And then, so when I was really young, there was this LA Clippers player, Stanley Roberts, that came to like our elementary school because a friend that was at the school, her mom was a friend of his. And so he came there and he talked to us. And I was like, I'm not about to be a Clippers fan. Have you guys been to your games? It was terrible. It was not sexy at all. They used to literally give away tickets to go to Clippers games.
Oh, boy.
They used to have like a lot of like young kids there because they used to like try to get like elementary schools, middle schools, just try to get people in the stands. It was at the sports arena. It was all the lights were up. It was just not very sexy. But the Lakers, it was sexy. The lights were down. Laker girls, Dr. Buss did a really good job of being innovative there and creating, the Lakers Showtime, and got the players, got the money, and did all the things. And the Clippers had none of that. But it was in the year 2000, things changed. And the big thing that changed was the injury around the team. You had Darius Miles, you had Corey Maggette, you had Quentin Richardson, you had Brand, you had so many really, really good, fun young guys that were there, like Lamar Odom, that, they were so good and they were so electrifying to watch since when we started calling Lob City. And around that time, I just really enjoyed watching them so much so I was like, wow, somehow we got to put money together to get season tickets. I don't think that happened, but but I really wanted to go. And so in 2002, I decided, I was like, all right, I really like watching the Clips. I've been to a couple games, and I was like, all right, you're on my team now. And so I've been riding with the Clips. It's just been me and Billy Crystal, riding with the Clips for that long. And it's been a lot of disappointment. It's been a lot of fun times watching, the Blake Griffins and the DeAndre Jordans and the CPs. But then there's been a lot of heartbreak with the Blake Griffins, the DeAndre Jordans, and the CPs. But that's just the way the ball bounces. And I think that the Clips can win a championship? Yes. Do I think it'd be next year? No. Do I think it'd be the year after that? Probably not. Will it happen with the next decade? Ooh, I hope so, because that's a lot of losing if you don't. But either way, I'm not a person that kind of backs out. I'll just stick with them because red's my favorite color, and I like blue too. So
no, that's fair. So I guess my first point or question is, so did you not become a Lakers fan or at least I'm curious because Kobe, obviously, what he said this in the Last Dance. He's like, "What you get from me is what you got from MJ." So did you not, in a essence, follow Kobe or like MJ 2.0, or did you just, especially since the Clippers were their own thing, you wanted to be a little original?
Kobe was a Michael Jordan fan too. It's like, no, I'm not gonna be a Kobe. I'm a Jordan fan.
Not a Kobe fan.
Well, it's not that I don't appreciate Kobe and what he did for the game, and I even said that before his untimely passing, rest in peace. But like, I was a Jordan fan. Kobe was a Jordan fan. LeBron was a Jordan fan. Like, no, like I'm a Jordan fan. I'm a Jordan guy. I'm a Jordan fan. But I do appreciate LeBron's game, and I definitely did appreciate Kobe's game. I got to see him in the last season when he was with the Lakers, and yeah, man, it was he's just it was an electrifying player, and so is LeBron. So like for me now, if you talk about like the GOAT debate, like I don't necessarily want to talk about them being greater than Jordan because like obviously there's a bias for me, but if we're talking about like their greatness, like yes, those are great players and like the greatest of their eras. So
yeah, absolutely. And then the second part of the question is, how do you think Steve Ballmer's done as the owner since taking over the Clippers? And do you honestly think Kawhi can get it done with the Clippers?
Steve Ballmer, he's been putting up the money. And so, yes, I like Steve Ballmer. There's no controversy. He just wants to see the guys win. I think one of the best things that Steve Ballmer did was get the logo himself. Jerry West. That was one of the best organizational decisions he could have done over drafting any player or getting any player in free agency. People can say like, oh, they're coming for LA because it's a destination city. They're coming for Jerry West. Now they're coming from Ty Lue. They're coming for the front office and for the great coaching staff and what these guys can do for them and what their track record has shown that they can do and what they have done. Do I think Kawhi can get it done? Maybe quietly. That was a joke right there.
Yep. I got that one.
I hope so, man. I really do hope so. Either way, you'll never see the pressure on Kawhi's face. And I personally thought that last year was really going to be like the year that the squad needed to get it done because this year, you got Clay coming back. You got, they trying to reemerge, as the team on the West Coast. You got LeBron and his play like 2K created squad. Like this is crazy, like I don't think everybody's like in their mid-30s and older. Like still, this is wild. You got like 5 future Hall of Famers on the same team. It's like how do you even beat that? Like how do you even compete with that? And so then you got all these other teams that are like great things. They love the young guy. I mean, like wow, like honestly the past 2 years the time for Clips and get a win, or it's just going to be way harder just moving forward.
Yeah, it really will be. I mean, and I was gonna say, can you hear me still? I don't know again what happened internet wise. Here, one sec. Can you Rypen, can you hear me? Yo, Rypen, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know how. Okay, you're there. Yeah. So for me, I think another thing we didn't even bring up with obviously this upcoming NBA season, which I'm personally excited for, especially with all the moves that were made, is your former star Clipper, also former Blake of the Year winner, Blake Griffin, and the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, it just seems like everyone's picking Lakers and Nets. And I was gonna say, do you feel a little disrespected in that, especially that they're counting your clips out? Especially, it'd be funny if Blake were to play his former team in the finals.
Do I feel disrespected that the Clips are being disrespected? No. Have you watched the Clips over the last 2 decades? Like, what can you say? Like, they haven't won a championship. We haven't won a championship. So what do you want to say? I mean, it's just being real. It's like, you show up, and if people give you respect. And until you do so, then you're insignificant. You're not a factor, right? You can look at Toronto. You can look at all the teams that finally won and finally got the monkey off their back. And then people are like, all right, you finally got your one win. Welcome to the conversation. Until the Clips do so, it's going to be what it is, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The thing for me that I guess why, for everyone at home, why I was so surprised seeing Rypen wear a Clippers hat, me growing up in LA, as I did, I didn't think Clipper fans existed. I'm going to be real. I'm like, who's a fan of the Clippers? Because I never heard of them. It was all Lakers, Lakers, Lakers. Because when I was growing up, it was Kobe's prime. So I never heard of the Lakers. I mean the Clippers, even though I did know Blake Griffin and Chris Paul were, and DeAndre Jordan were, they were able to hold their own and they were good. So I never obviously heard those issues and those criticisms. And the funny thing with Toronto, you bringing it up, don't you think it's really funny that the city of Toronto has won a championship more recently in basketball than they have in hockey?
Ooh, you can make some people mad with that one, man.
I mean, I am, but no, I am. But to be honest, it's just how it is. Like, I mean, they won in 2019, and the Leafs. I mean, it's the longest drought. I mean, I'm sorry to Leaf fans, but it's just how it is.
I think it's a bunch of things. Like when I look at the NBA and basketball's development in Canada, man, if you look at the past, like 3 drafts, there's been a lot of Canadians that
RJ Barrett.
Right? So there's been just so much talent that's been coming out of Canada, and a lot of at a high clip, and guys are really developing well. So I think that whatever they're doing out there, they're doing a great job. I think that also, like in America, like in that same breath, what America has been doing as far as like, so you look at the last 30 drafts, like, I mean, how many Americans been getting drafted very high, like, first rounders, and American teams have been doing well for a bunch of reasons, right? So whether they be like destination cities or just a warmer climate city, like I'd be rude if you told me 10 years ago Tampa Bay was going to win a Stanley Cup, I'd be like, how the what? Tampa Bay? I'm like, nah, bro. But like, it's I would say it's pretty appealing now, obviously they're winning, but appealing to go down to a warmer climate and live in a warmer climate throughout the year, as opposed to being in terrible winter weather. We can, fantasize winter weather all we want with, holiday stuff or whatever, but it's not fun. Nope. Shoveling all the snow out your driveway or off your car just to make it to work, for the day. So I think there's a bunch of different factors that goes into that. And it's just like divisionally, there's just it's really tough. If you look at like the Canadian teams and divisions they're in, there's just some really, really good teams there that they have to play against in the States. And I think it makes it harder for those teams to make it to the finals and to really emerge as like a top seed. And the other thing is just year in and year out, man, it's tough. It's just really tough. And maybe because, it's one of the original teams, like they feel a lot of pressure there. Maybe because fans want it really bad. So fans put a lot of pressure on the players, understandably so. But maybe it's, it could be pressure the guys feel, could be, all the things that you don't see. It's all the unsaid stuff too that factors in. And, sometimes it just takes that one guy. I'm not saying that Austin isn't that guy. I think he's a special guy, a special player. I think he's a great face of the NHL. I'm not putting him down at all, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes it just takes like one guy to bring another guy there, and then like, oh, now they got like a big three, right? Like the NBA, they got more than just that one guy who's just a face. They got multiple guys, winning and putting up numbers on the board. If you look at Tampa Bay, they had like the top 2 out of the scorers in the NHL.
Yeah, Tampa, yeah, they're loaded,
right?
Yeah, they're loaded. Yeah, they just got great depth all around.
So there's a bunch of things. So when you talk about depth, because that's an important word, and so we know if we're talking about depth and we're talking about like drafting, we're talking about free agency, but then we're still talking about contracts. So the front office has done a really good job, right, in negotiating and getting the right guys there, evaluating talent, developing skill and talent, keeping guys injuries free, making sure you guys are happy, and then paying them. And then, honestly, when you're winning, people will sit back a little bit like, yo, we just won 2 cups. Like, man, can we get 3? Like, all right, maybe maybe I'm gonna hold off my negotiation. Maybe I'm, because that's what guys are doing. If you can look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they took a pay cut so they can keep the band together, right? Because they're like, yo, let's run it back.
No,
So
absolutely. Yeah, and I guess the one thing I want to get out of the way is before any of these people come at us in the comments or wherever being like Tampa Bay Lightning 18 million over the cap. So first off, 10 million of that money is from guys that aren't even playing anymore, like Anders Nielsen, the goalie. I think like Gabrick's money might even be in there, and he hasn't played in like 4 or 5 years. So first, let's get that out of the way. Second, with Toronto, and not to make this like Leafs lunch or Leafs talk too much, but yeah, like I think the thing I'm also saying that is because this year was set up most of all that like how the playoffs were set up. They had at least they were gonna had at least a good shot at getting into the final dance, the final four, and it was set up that way. I mean, they won the division, they played well, and then they even had a 3-1 lead, and then you see what happens with them collapsing, and it's unfortunate. So basically, that's part of the reason with the failure is that it was set up for them to win this year, and they messed it up. Just how it is.
I mean, I saw that with the Clippers, right? When the Clippers had that 3-1 lead
against the Nuggets, yeah.
And they lost that, and that part of that is due to, I'll say it's a lot of factors. So I can't just blame one thing, right? So in the locker room with the team, it's like leadership. So you have enough guys that have actually been there. So it's not just being a veteran in the league. You have enough guys that have been to that part of the postseason, within, or that late in the playoffs, or played in, Stanley Cup final. It's like all those things. Those, I think those are two big factors that factor into what happens and how there can be such a big fallout in a team, especially when the team's up. And then sometimes like guys just look too far in the future, right? I think that's more of a symbolism for life. You can't look too far ahead. You got to be in the present still and make decisions in the present that are going to bode well for you down the line in the future.
So a Clippers question I have for you. Yeah. How do you feel about all the Paul George slander, especially the Pandemic P nickname?
Man, PG, and he's the Cali guy. So I already told you, if anybody's a Cali guy, PG Kawhi, you're not gonna really hear me say a bad thing about him. So, but PG's Bradford, it's like, yeah, I mean, if you really think about all the stuff, like, back in the day when they were playing high school and everything, like trolls have always been in existence. And so, like, calling him Pandemic P or whatever nicknames people want to come up with, I mean, I don't really think that it gets to him too much, but it's just more of like, I think he put the pressure on himself. It's like, all right, now I got to show up, because that's what we want. We just want Paul George to show up and show out and lead the team to NBA championship. That's all we want. And so, people are going to say whatever they're going to say, and they can do whatever they want. But once he finally wins, what can they say? Like, people were talking about Chris Paul forever and saying that Chris Paul might have been the problem, in the locker room, and he's tough on guys, and it's a leadership issue. But CP showed that this year, like, no, it's not. His leadership issue was the thing that helped them get to where they were. And so, even though he didn't win, I think that people have to refer to Chris Paul in a different way, and less of a disrespectful tone that CP has been referred to or I've dealt with analysts and whatnot throughout the years.
Yeah, and even I think the same thing is said with Giannis, and Giannis has only been in the league. He's been in the league since 2014. He hasn't been as long as Chris Paul has been in the league. But even with Giannis in the last few years, especially him winning MVPs, people that had slander toward him saying Giannis isn't clutch. Giannis needs to be carried. And what amazed me personally in the finals was that game they clinched it, where he missed, I think, all but 1 or 2 free throws in the game. And he basically stared the haters in the face and said, look at me now. Like, as that one song goes, like, look at me now. Like, he just proved everyone wrong. And I thought that was great. So yeah, similar issue where people were saying he's not clutch. He needs someone else. He needs to be carried, where no, Giannis stepped up and showed up in that big game.
Yeah. It's one of those things that people are going to say whatever they're going to say, because at the end of the day, I like to remind guys, like, hey, you were signing up to be an entertainer. And so these people want to be entertained. And so
Mhm.
when, you know, everyone does it, right? If I go to a movie, if I don't like a movie, I'm like, ooh, it wasn't as good. Like, oh, you got me again, Will Ferrell. I got to go see it another 3 more times to really get it. You know, it's just one of those things. But,
Yeah.
you know, you put your art out there, you know, your Basquiat, your whoever else, you put your art there to be judged. And if people don't like it, then they don't like it, you know. But that's what you're doing, right? You're there to be, you know, judged because people are there to be entertained. And so I think as
Mhm.
an athlete, you just categorize and say, like, all right, like I'm just gonna look internally, like what am I doing wrong? You know, I'm gonna look at the stats, I'm gonna like check the film, like how can I be better?
Yep.
How can I be the best and increase my intelligence, my sport IQ for whatever my
Mhm.
specific sport is, and so that I can, you know, what I mean, figure it out so that I can get, you know, myself and my team past the hump, so I can really cement my legacy. And you know, I think it helps when you like take distractions away. And I think that you'll see a lot of the guys and women, female athletes
Mhm.
as well, at the top. You'll find a good support system. So whether it be the family that they create with their significant other, or the immediate family that they're born into, or their extended family, or their friends, and you know, the relationship with their agents, you'll see a really, really, really good unit there, really good support system, to where they don't have to worry about that stuff. They know that at home is taken care of, they're solid, they're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's well said. I think everyone can use a support system. And even moving along, a little game I wanted to play with you for is start, bench, and cut. So I'm gonna since you're a trainer, I have a few workouts and especially specifics about that workout that we're gonna use, and everyone at home can play along, especially if you for the people at home, it's which one you prefer to do. So a functional exercise that you have a lot of your athletes do is squat. So for start, bench, cut, we're gonna go goblet squat, front
Yeah.
squat, and back squat.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, oh, that's tough. So the reason why I'll go, ooh, all right. So I'll go start on the squat because I
Which
just
one?
love
Goblet, back, or front?
back.
Back squat.
Excuse
Okay.
me. Yeah, start on the back squat because of like loading. We can work on a lot of different things with a barbell back squat, right? You can work on different parts of force velocity curve with that barbell back squat. Front squat, I'll cut it only because the goblet squat I think is a very functional. So I'll bench it, and I love the goblet squat, so I'll bench it. But I still think that the back squat is a little more superior for a bunch of different reasons. I really do like front squats, but for a lot of people, just they're lacking in mobility, or their tightness within certain areas creates an inability for them to be in correct positions so that they can properly hold the bar without having any pain or creating other issues.
That's good. I would have to agree with you mainly with back squat. So I can obviously lift. I think I can lift. I know I can lift a lot more back squat versus front squat, and I feel like back squat's a little more natural, even if you have like the safety bars, which I think are a big help. And then goblet squat too. Like goblet squat's very functional. It's not a very cumbersome position when you hold the goblet up. So yeah, I would have to cut front squat as well. Next, we got the deadlifts. We got trap bar, conventional, and then sumo.
So trap bar is king there. So that's starting right there. It's just easier to really teach somebody how to deadlift with the trap bar positionally. It makes a lot of sense to them. It's almost like a hybrid because you can get them in a little bit more of a squat focused position, or more of a traditional or hinge hip focused position. Now this is the one that comes into it's kind of like that in between. And so the way that I might talk about being in a sumo position where they're not out too wide and their feet aren't too externally rotated, they're just slightly wider, but their hands are inside of their legs. I think that it's a far easier position to teach, right? So that we can actually load, and so their body can be in a more correct position, as opposed to a traditional, like conventional barbell deadlift. Moving around the barbell from a conventional deadlift stance, there's a lot of slight nuances that go there, and so a lot of people can mess it up. mess it up by way of pulling it correctly from the floor. You'll see that's why a lot of people, that's why one of the reasons why I have to wear shin guards or socks. I do believe in keeping the bar close to your body, but I don't believe in necessarily scraping your shins all the way up. And it's far more common for people to have to get out of their neutral spine position in a conventional deadlift, as opposed to a slightly wider stance, which we'll categorize for right now a sumo stance. But just know that my sumo stance isn't super, super wide.
No,
it's slightly wider. Feet aren't extreme on the external rotation, and hands are inside the knees, so that they're not fighting for position. And so it also helps someone to be a little bit more in a upright or erect position. And so they're able to maintain a better neutral spine as they work throughout that range of motion. So trap bar, sumo, in the way I described, and then convention is cut.
Yeah, those are all good answers. And anyone who obviously is gonna wants to add deadlift to their routine in the gym, I think that you should listen to what Rypen just said. A lot of valuable information. So I'm gonna say for me the same. The only slight change is I'm gonna have to bench or I'm gonna have to cut sumo. And I've just never done sumo deadlift before. I've mainly done a conventional or I've never done a conventional or I've done like a Romanian deadlift, but I've never done a sumo deadlift. So that's why I'm going to go with that. And then the last one is going to be just a this or that for Olympic lifts, snatch or clean.
Just like clean all day. Clean all day. Because snatch is way too technical for a lot of people. It's overhead, so it's far more dangerous. If you don't, it's just a lot of technique that goes into it. So you have to weigh out the cost benefits. So it's better for me to teach someone cleaning as opposed to teaching them a snatch. And even before a clean, I'll teach a high pull or use a trap bar high pull, something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that, especially my experience with cleans. I've found that they're very easy to learn, and especially I'm more used to just the bar speed of getting up there on a clean versus the snatch, which you said. I'm not really a big fan of doing anything overhead because of how cumbersome it is, and especially puts your shoulder in a bad spot when it's above your head. And I don't really mess with overhead stuff. So yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. Another quick story.
It's easier for your shoulder to be out of position if you don't know positionally how to be, if you weren't taught. There's small like variances that can happen in the catch of the snatch that can create issues if you already have pre-existing issues.
Yes,
so yes, I agree.
That, and then the other thing about trap bar, going back to that I agree with, is during last year, my trainer with my team, he said the reason he loves trap bar also is that it's idiot proof, meaning that it's really easy to learn, and you basically just grip it and rip it, versus all, like you said, sumo, you have to make sure you have the right stance, they're not rotated too far. There's just a lot of, like you said, a lot more nuance with those two versus trap bar, which is pretty simple. Pick it, grab it, and pick it up, basically.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly. So before I let you go, a few things I wanted to bring up was you had Seattle pick Matty Beniers in town. What was it like working with a high end prospect and former teammate of Brendan's?
Oh man, such a great guy. He's the best. I was so happy to see him get that number 2 spot on the board. And big things ahead of him and of the boys this year. Mish Hockey, let's go, go blue. But yeah, he's a great guy, hard worker, and it was one of those things that when, especially like if I have the opportunity to work with a high value client or high value athlete, there's a lot that you have to take into consideration, like where he's at. I asked him, what his trainer back at home had him in, what phase he was in, what things they were working on, to make sure that you're doing the right things, that he stays on track as far as program. It could be, it's kind of off and loading week. It could be in a different phase. I just knew at that time he wasn't in a heavy phase or anything like that. So I just wanted to keep our lifts a mixture of like basic strength lifts and then some functional movements because he had basically was coming back from an ankle injury, and so he was taking that consideration, and also just making sure that I wasn't overcoaching, and then you don't want to like counter coach. And what I mean is every coach is a little bit different. Some coaches will take over an athlete and say like, oh, you got to scrap this, throw this all away. Something another coach has been teaching them for, 15 years. And so I don't like to do that. I like to say like, oh, this might be where your coach was coming from. This might be what they were thinking. Here's how I go about it. And like, maybe here's like the difference in between, or, you can take, the value from whatever it is I'm saying. And, you can go back to your coach and, so they know that I'm not, saying anything and putting down or counter what they're saying, but this is just the way I see it. And so there's certain things that I might take away from like a training session with a high value client like that, to make sure that it's the best experience for them, so that their trainer's happy when they get back home, the strength coach is trainer happy when they get back home, and so that they're feeling the work and get it done. So, continue the laptop.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think that was the other good thing, was that you were able to show him the lab talk ways, and I think that that's valuable for any high value athlete.
Yeah, I think I had a good time in the lab.
Absolutely. And then also, you met our boy. You obviously trained our boy Igor. What was it like meeting him for the first time, and getting to know him? Because I've known him for a few years, and he's a very good person to know.
Yeah, Igor, man, just swagged out. He came in with the most swaggiest tracksuit. I can't even remember. I knew for sure it was Nike, because I'm a Nike guy, and so he came in. I was like, man, look at this guy. I was like, what's up, my boy? It was right away. I was like, man, what's good? Like, and it's one of those things that everybody can research and find out about anybody. And so, but prior to Igor coming in, I really didn't know too much, believe it or not, about Igor. I just wanted to meet the man himself, talk to him, get the vibe. We sat down, set goals, told him what I could do for him, and then how I like to train, how I like to go about it, how much time we had together. So we created a plan for him to make sure that we hit certain things at certain phases, and so he was going to be at his best for wherever he was going to be at, because in a free agency year, you don't necessarily know, but I think the most free agents work extra hard because they want to make sure that wherever they go, that they're ready for whatever comes at them. And so in that process of Igor and I working together, it was just even more rapport that was built, even more trust was built. And then when he started to see and feel the things that I told him that he was going to see and feel, then there was even more trust that was there. And then when others start seeing it, people that know him for years, they just comment on certain things, or you'll see him on the ice, or whatever else it may be, or with him in the lab, putting up different numbers more that he had never put up before, things like that. All those things play into, I think, a healthy coach or trainer and trainee or athlete dynamic. And man, so he's a great guy.
Yeah, he really is. He was funny enough. So he was my first podcast guest, and he's just a lot of fun to talk to too. He's just a high value person, and I think everyone needs to know someone like that in their life.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. So two last things. Where can people find you on social media, especially obviously if they want to take some things away and obviously learn from you and obviously grow?
Yeah, so Instagram is Rypen Fitness, RYPNFITNESS.
Like behind you, like the sign behind you.
Yes, sir. Just like the sign behind me.
People listening to the audio won't see that. Only the YouTube people will see that.
Okay. And then you always go to rypenfitness.com, RYPNFITNESS, just like the sign.com. Got Rypen Performance Lab on IG, and then on the website, you can go to r-tv, RTV, and you'll find even more videos that are going up, building out even more videos that will be posted on YouTube. And so you guys check out YouTube, subscribe, hit me up about things that you might want me to talk about, demonstrate. There'll be even more workouts on there that are more fitness based. Things are going to be more performance based, and things that'll be even more hockey specific based workouts and or ideas. Being a football guy coming to the hockey world, I have different ideas about how to, like I like to say, train and get guys into better hockey positions, or when guys are on the ice, they're better in those skating positions and things they just need to do on ice. And so I'll talk more about why I might do this, not that, that, not this. And so it makes a little more sense on the Rypen way. And you guys can lab talk with me.
Absolutely. And something I think everyone should go check out is go to look up the South Bay Health magazine. There's an issue where our boy Rypen was actually on the cover. How was that experience being on the cover?
Oh man, it was a great experience. I didn't think that honestly, I didn't think I was gonna be on the cover first. I thought they were just doing a story on us, and it was gonna be in there as one of the main stories for that issue. I did not think it was gonna be the cover though, so I was pleasantly surprised there. And then with all the people in the South Bay, my friends and clients and people I've known throughout the years, they had that delivered to their doorsteps, and I saw it all around the community. So that was a really fun thing, seeing that and being a part of that and having that happen for me. And yeah, man, this is a great thing. Love the South Bay. South Bay is a great place to be, great place to live. So I think it was a special thing.
Absolutely. A question I also have is, who would you like to see me interview on the podcast?
Ooh, okay. Ooh, okay.
I'm interested now.
if he would do it, Fink.
Finker?
Yeah.
No, I would love to have Finker on. And that reminds me, I'm gonna need you to do a little full court press on our boy Brendan. I asked B when I was out there, I'm like, do you want to come on? He said, yeah. And whenever I text him, it's like he can never commit to a time or a day or whatever. And I want to,
they're extra busy right now in Michigan, getting ready for the season. So I think that it's not that he's trying to avoid you, but he does have a lot going on. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully I can get him on soon. I mean, as we both know, he's a hilarious guy, and I think it'd be very fun to talk with him. And yeah, so Rypen, I can't thank you enough for coming on. It was good to catch up. It was good to chat.
Good talking with you too, PK.
All right, take care.
All right.
Huge thanks to Rypen Fitness for hopping on the program. Hope everyone gained a little bit of knowledge and insight with training and becoming more of a functional athlete. If you happen to be in the Los Angeles area and you're an athlete and you're looking to take your game to the next level, aside from my boys at GLP that I've gotten to know, I would 100% recommend Rypen Fitness to get you there, because he's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing. And I just honestly think you cannot go wrong with training with him, especially to be able to lab talk with him. It's invaluable. Just be a part of the lab, go to the lab talk it up, and you're gonna do well. And I think that's all that matters. That's it for today, everyone. As always, my podcast Instagram is PK's Place Podcast. My personal Instagram is p.hughes15. Leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, 5-star review. Go on Spotify, follow, click the bell for notifications. So anytime I post an episode, you will get notified just like that, so you can instantaneously listen. Any feedback that you give me, I welcome. I'm someone who wants to always get better, so I appreciate that. And that's it for this week. I'll see everyone next week. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone.